You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 212. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
I'm Jeff Barnhart, Warrior of Mars.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhousers. You can check out our show and find other articles and things, nerdy things, at theouthousers.com. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher. So the first book we're going to talk about today is Creatures on the Loose, number 18, which is the July of 1972 issue. And the lead story is called Wasteland on a Weirdling World, written by George Alec Effinger and Jerry Conway. Effinger is a science fiction writer of some renown, although I'm unfamiliar with his works personally. Penciled by Ross Andrew and inked by Sam Granger. And this is about Lieutenant Gulliver Jones, who is a science fiction character who predates John Carter of Mars.
Really?
Edgar Rice Burroughs actually served partially as inspiration for that. Lieutenant Gulliver Jones, His Vacation, that book was published in 1905, which precedes John Carter by almost a decade.
I had no idea. This is interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised. I wonder if it wasn't as real written, or because
I couldn't tell you.
Tarzan was so famous, so when Edgar Rice Burroughs did something else that kind of overshadowed him.
I could not even speculate upon that point. But I felt I needed to mention it because in your notes you referred to it as a ripoff of John Carter. I'm like, well, that's actually not true at all. But it shares elements with it, definitely.
Yeah. What I had said was a ripoff. The first page was a ripoff of 3 other literary pieces. One, Andromeda and Perseus.
Oh, yes.
And Gulliver's Travels.
Sure.
And,
which I'll give you that one.
Yeah. And John Carter. So I had no idea that this predated John Carter.
Yeah.
So.
But in reading this, and I think this clearly, I mean, I saw things in this that obviously inspired not only John Carter, but the Pellucidar stories of Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like pterodactyl people and that kind of thing.
Although we're not sure if this goes with the original books. They may have just grabbed the name Gulliver Jones for this comic and then ripped off John Carter. We don't know.
We don't know. I think that's a little unlikely, but I think it is what it is. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I thought Wasteland on a Weirdling World would be about Portland, Oregon. But we live in Portland, Oregon. We love it, so we jest and love. All right, so Gulliver Jones is with this pterodactyl guy, and it's pretty cool. So he's a friend, and it's like Andromeda was tied up in order to be by the sea monster.
Yeah.
Gulliver and the pterodactyl dude is going to be eaten up by Fra. I guess that's pronouncing.
Yeah, I think you're doing that right. Now, it should be noted the earlier installments of this story were done by Gil Kane, and I think it's interesting to see Ross Andrew attempting at least somewhat to emulate that, so that there's some kind of artistic continuity there, which I appreciate. Yeah. And Andrew was great. He and Mike Esposito were a wonderful team together, and they worked together on Spider-Man, and they worked on The Metal Men at DC. Mm-hmm.
So they're grabbed up by Fra, who's this big, red, ugly monster. And he's taken down into the sea and taken to a lab. And it looks like...
Yeah, like a scientist's laboratory.
And it looks like Fra is just a resident there, not the owner.
Right. And Gulliver and his companion, who's a pterodactyl man, they realize, Fra is a fraud. Fra is just a monster who lives down in this pit and had been treated like a god and was just a monster, just a big thing.
Yeah. Gulliver has superpowers because he is human on Mars.
Right. Like John Carter.
Right.
And I realize how much John Carter, his leaping and his enhanced strength, how that is... Superman is
Superman leapt. Leaps over a building in a single bound. He leapt. He didn't fly at the beginning.
Yeah, which is interesting because Captain Marvel was flying long before Superman was, while Superman was just jumping around like a flea.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I wish that joke was mine, but I read it somewhere. I'm like, well, that's a good point.
Yeah. So
it's almost like Captain Marvel, who is a Superman imitator, at least took Superman and refined some of those things and did them better, at least in the context of the Golden Age.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, that's just we talked about Captain Marvel last time, but yeah, it is so sad. I do like the old Captain Marvel so much. It's such a
it is wonderful, and I realize it's interesting that I think it's like 1953 is when Fawcett stopped publishing Captain Marvel,
mm-hmm.
and I think that's about the time when Superman really gets good.
Mm.
You know, because if we're talking purely Golden Age context, I mean it's the late Golden Age. Those when Fawcett ends and Superman is then getting good, but
yeah.
I think Captain Marvel is the greatest hero of the Golden Age, and then Superman of the Silver Age.
Okay, I would agree with that. There's an interesting theory that Superman, when he first started, he was crusading reporter, and that was a new thing.
Yeah,
reporters would, if you want to crusade, you write a book about it.
Yeah,
The Jungle or something like that.
Yeah, Upton Sinclair. Yeah.
Yeah. And Superman was going around. Oh, this is a slum. Let's fix it up. And he was doing something. And this may have caused, which would be really weird if this is the case, but it may be so. Journalism being investigative and trying to change the world.
Yeah.
And
social justice.
Yeah. And for better or worse, I think sometimes it gets in the way of proper reporting, is to have a chip on your shoulder, and because it could be wrong. But it was interesting that Superman did have that against, had that effect on the world beyond comics, like that.
Right, and it's interesting. You look at those stories of Superman in the 30s and the early 40s. He's pretty rough and tumble.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
He's very Batmanish.
Explain what you mean.
As in, beating the crap out of people, and that's all he does, and he's very aggressive.
Yeah, and they softened him up, and I feel like in the 40s, Superman's a wonderful hero, but those stories aren't so great.
Yeah.
And in the 50s and 60s, they really got what to do with Superman and did it well.
Yeah. I wonder if the cartoons had a thing in changing him as well.
Those cartoons are a pretty good example of, I think, the transition of Superman, because they are a classic image of what we think of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely, I think, the bridge to from his earliest adventures to what he became in the late 50s and 60s.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
Oh yeah,
probably in the top 10 of all.
Very interesting observation. I like that.
Okay, all right, I try. All right, so we get there's a computer there. Oh, all of a sudden the pterodactyl man takes his pterodactyl head back, and he's got this gray face and it's like humanoid. It's kind of
the pterodactyl head was a mask. He was a mutated throwback and an outcast among his people. That had a more human form. Mm-hmm. He's still purple and has wings and stuff.
Okay, purple.
But yeah, the pterodactyl head is a phony.
I was astounded at that. That really rocked my world.
Well, good.
Yeah. So we get the origin of Mars. This is 1 billion years in the past. And
yeah, because I guess Gulliver Jones, when he traveled to Mars, he also traveled time.
Right. So that's why, and this tells why we don't see their civilization in our telescopes.
Right.
In 1905 or whatever, and because they no longer exist.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant, and the forethought from 1905 to do that is astounding.
Star Wars did that. They long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. To do that, then you have a tabula rasa, a blank slate to write whatever you want to.
Right.
So
I mean, even though they never dealt really with planets in our solar system, so they could have had a tabula rasa anyway. It's nice to say, like, oh, this isn't about our future. Right. This is the history of a past far away from us, and I like that because we can make it about human beings, and it's about the human experience rather than a traditional form of connectivity to that. It's not Flash Gordon who's from Earth, you know. So
although I like Flash Gordon.
I'm not trying to knock him or Buck Rogers, but it's doing space opera in a different way.
Yeah, I haven't seen Buck Rogers. I like that. I haven't read the comics. The TV show was meh.
Buck Rogers, although predated Flash Gordon, I think it was a case of the Pioneers getting the arrows, and I think that Flash Gordon is superior.
Yeah.
Not that Buck Rogers is bad. I've read some of the Buck Rogers strips from the 30s and 40s, and they're beautiful and they're interesting. They're not up to the Alex Raymond standard of Flash Gordon, but later Macro Boy and I think others worked on it. But
wonderfully bad movie. Oh, I love that.
Flash. Yeah.
We'll save every one of us. All right. So we have the history of Mars. There was this golden age of golden people, and a huge cataclysm happens, and so the people split up and they start to evolve into different forms.
Yeah. And the pterodactyl people are but one of like a half dozen.
Yeah, and they're all different colors.
Yeah.
Red and purple
and I wonder if there's a caste system also in place there. I haven't read Lieutenant Gulliver Jones, the novel, so I don't know.
Right.
I'd be curious to read it. Maybe I should read it and then start the John Carters.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Pellucidar, and I've read some John Carter and Mars, and they're good reads.
Yeah,
so
I'd like to read them.
Wrong with them.
Actually,
they're not sophisticated, and
not everything has to be good. I mean, we've read some. A lot of what we read is not sophisticated, but it's exciting and it's fun and it's worth talking about.
You ever heard of H. Bean Piper? He's a science fiction. He wrote Little Fuzzies and Lord Everwin. Really cool guy. Had money problems, committed suicide, and then of course next year his books get really popular. But he wrote this book called Space Vikings, and it's only about 150 pages worth, and all this stuff happens. And I was thinking, if George R.R. Martin wrote this, it'd have been 2 500-page books at least.
Sure.
Or anybody now, because
honestly, I feel like the best science fiction novels quite often are like under 200 pages, because you get away from the pretentiousness, you get away from using every thought and creating a million characters, and have a single, more focused narrative. You got like your main plot and your subplot, and then the plot of your villains. Only a few plot threads going along, you can really just zoom.
Yeah, I thought it was too short, but it's either you're wanting much more material to read or wanting much less, and I'd rather want much more because that is a better read.
Sure.
And the first Dune book, I wish it was twice as long. The other Dune books, I wish were half as long. So that's just
So Gulliver and his pterodactyl friend fight Fra.
Yeah, and a good battle too.
Yeah.
They can't really beat him. They smack him around a little bit, then they run.
Yeah.
And he's about to grab him, and
they escape in a whirlpool because they're under the sea.
Yeah, and the fight has started a fire in the
laboratory.
Yeah. And he's about to grab him, and the lab blows up and blows him out into the water, out into the air, and that's about it. But one thing, Gulliver,
he comes upon these people who are in suspended animation.
Yeah, and he's really emoed out about it, and I don't know. I really didn't understand why.
Well, we don't have a lot of context. We're coming in a few chapters into this series, and we're not going to look at any more issues of it.
Yeah.
So,
you've lost a god, but me, I've lost, and so very much more.
Yeah, because Gulliver, he's on this other world, out of place and time.
Mm-hmm.
I think what a place to be mentally.
Right. Yeah. But he has a nice girlfriend. He's having adventures. What do you want?
I don't know. Maybe he was happy before he left, and he's making do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, but there are a couple of backup stories in this issue. The first is called Under the Knife, which is a reprint from Adventures into Terror, number 11, from August of 1952, and with art by Tony DiPreta.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Matt Henry is undergoing surgery, and he's dying. And actually, he is dead. So,
okay.
And the doctor's massaging his heart and all that. Matt wakes up, and he's in the afterlife. There's a Zoe who leads him on, and they're being chased.
Now,
by
Zoe, she is like Sharon taking him across the River Styx.
Looks a lot better than Sharon.
Yeah.
But they're being followed by an unseen person. And the first place they go to is this island of cowardly warriors, which is, I guess, is where I'm going to go when I die.
You didn't desert when you were in a war because you weren't in one.
Oh yeah,
that's what these guys were.
Kind of cowardly though. So, but it's kind of, we see people from World War I and Caesar's legions begging for help. And so, well, we're going to skip this and go on. It says Zoe. And then we see sirens, and Zoe zaps them back into their evil. What are they? They're Furies.
Yeah, Furies.
Mm-hmm. Then we find out that Matt lives. Oh, he sees the face of the guy chasing him. And he's got a mask on, but you can see his evil countenance. And he wakes up and says, "Hey, you're dead, but we need to put you on a knife again and fix you up."
Yeah.
And he sees Zoe, but looks like a nurse, but it's not. Her name is not Zoe.
Yeah.
And then he sees a doctor, and the doctor is the guy who was chasing him.
Yeah.
Kind of a neat.
It's weird. They revived him, and then he was going to die under the knife anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is creepy, huh?
Yeah, pretty cool. Is this? I wonder if this is in a horror story, and they just put it here, or?
What do you mean? This is from a horror comic. I said it was from Adventures into Terror.
Oh, Creatures on the Loose.
Yeah, but it's a reprint from a 50s horror comic.
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah, it's a nice, creepy one.
Yeah.
Very Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The second backup and last story in this issue is called What Lurks in the Mountain, which is a reprint from Tales of Suspense number 17, which is from May of 1961. The story was written by Stan Lee with art by Steve Ditko.
Yeah, and this is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. These Chi-Coms take over
Chinese communists. Right. Chi-Com is not a term that's used regularly these days, so I want to...
Well, it's not my fault.
Well, I know, I'm just...
I'm joking.
I wanted to give explanation.
Right.
These commies from China.
Yeah. They take over a Chinese village. It might be Tibetan.
Yeah.
Because it is mountainous. And they're stealing stuff and treating the people bad. And one of the old timers of the village says, "Oh, I know where a spacecraft is."
Right.
And the head Chinese communist, I don't know, man, he's hideous looking.
He is. And Ditko does a great job in this story.
This is a great, and this quote has a story behind it. "If I can capture an alien ship with all its secrets, I'll be honored as the greatest hero since Hitler." And I told my wife this because I laughed out loud, and she was appalled. And what? And later, it was like she thought that comic was saying that, not somebody's thought bubble.
Right.
And saying, "Yeah, I don't know many comic books that are pro Hitler."
Yeah.
But
that's kind of funny though. How she misconstrued that.
Yeah, but I thought that was hilarious. So
I did laugh. I'm like, really? Because I can't think of any. He's really evil since Hitler. Ooh, like.
Right. Norman Spinrad is a science fiction writer. He wrote a book about Adolf Hitler.
Norman Spinrad?
Yeah.
Okay.
He wrote a book about Adolf Hitler coming to America in 1938, becoming a science fiction writer. And he writes,
wow,
Lord of the Swastika.
Wow.
And The Iron Dream is that book. And
The Iron Dream?
Yeah. It is a book written by Adolf Hitler, and it is fantastic. It's a science fiction story.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it is awesome. And yeah, Norman Spinrad is no Nazi, but he's very little. But it is awesome, and it's very hard to find. But
I like speculative alternative fiction. Or alternate history. Rather.
Yeah.
That's an interesting place to go with science fiction and stuff.
But, yeah, it is cool. All right, back to the story. They force the poor townspeople to take them up to the mountains where the spaceship is. They go up on top, and there's no spaceship.
But all the way, the soldiers and whoever, they're imagining what these aliens might be like. One sees it as dragons, and others a couple other hideous-looking things. They look great.
The chief bad guy has somebody give him a medal, and the other ones are just really worried.
Yeah.
What if we cannot stop them?
So they get to the top of the mountain, and they're like, there's nothing here. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then the mountain takes off because it is the spaceship. And the commies are all on top, and so they're killed as they go into space.
They don't know. And the villagers, are they killed, or do the people let them in? We'll never know. And it's kind of cool. I'd let them. I wouldn't have brought them in. So,
yeah.
But it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the villagers were saved from the tyranny and stuff. But
until the next communist group comes in.
Right. But I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. It was neat.
So the next issue we've got to talk about is Creatures on the Loose number 24 from July of 1973. And the lead story is called Red Swords, Black Wings. It was written by George Alec Effinger, who ironically wrote co-wrote the Gulliver story from the previous issue.
Huh.
Penciled by Val Mayerick and inked by Vince Colletta. And this is about Thongor, warrior of lost Lemuria, and of course he is. Let me hand me this, please.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's based on the novel Thongor and the Wizard of Lemuria by Lynn Carter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another sword and sorcery hero, but it's very reminiscent of Kull and Conan, particularly Kull, I think.
Which I don't mind.
No.
And yeah. I don't know what else you could do with the barbarians. Make great heroes because they don't know anything about the civilization.
Yeah.
So they're as ignorant as a reader is.
Sure.
So they have to be explained and all that stuff. And who wouldn't want to be a barbarian and not have to care about anything and dress up and wear a tie and all that?
I mean, and really, there's only like 4 or 5 real variations on the sword and sorcery theme. You can be Prince Valiant, or you can be Elric, or you can be Conan, or you can be Kull. Or, and some iteration of one of those guys. But that's about it.
I've read some other variations, but they are outliers, so...
Yeah.
And that would prove your thesis.
I think.
Okay. All right, Thungar is in a bar fight because he beat up somebody and he won a bet. And
I don't think Oh, I did give the art. Sorry.
It's a nice. I love the artwork.
Yeah, Val Mayerick is a great talent. He did. What else did he do? I think he did a little bit of Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu.
Yeah.
I think a lot of different guys worked on that, so I'm not 100% on. But I know he did some Howard the Duck and maybe some Man-Thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, this big bald guy looks like a Mongol.
Yeah.
And they're fighting, and it's a big fight. It's pretty cool. So Thongar said, I might have been wrong. Let's call a truce and be nice about it. And said, okay. And then the guy tries to hit him with a sword.
Oh, so the guy tries to renege on the agreement for peace. And then so Thongar, doesn't he kill him, right?
And then he does it twice. Then he does it again. So,
yeah.
That's sort of... So Thungar he kills him at the end.
Right.
And then he walks out and gets bonked on the head by a soldier.
Right.
Alright, so he is captured. He's going to be fed to vampire flowers, which they never show it, but...
That sounds bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes not showing a thing and making it more ominous.
It worked in Jaws.
Yeah, although it would be kind of nice if we saw the vampire flowers in the end or the climax.
Yeah.
But okay.
I can live without them.
They sound bad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Making flowers look menacing might be difficult.
Maybe.
Alright, so he's captured and then his buddy comes up.
Yeah.
I just got his name already. Old Termus. Okay. Of course. No. So he lets Thungar out, but his buddy lives here and says, well, we can't really be together because I'm a nobleman.
Yeah.
So Thungar gets out by beating the crap and stabbing a bunch of people, and he climbs a tower, and it's pretty well done.
Yeah.
The tower has a airship on it, which is a preposterous airship, but what can you do?
Right. And airships I think are fascinating. They use them in, John Carter and also in Jules Verne's Master of the World.
Yeah, it's not really an airship. It's a helicopter. I don't think it has any gas in it. It just has two propellers.
Oh, right. But it's an airship of some kind.
Yeah.
And in this ancient pretend land, that's pretty impressive.
Right.
So,
and impossible, but that's
yeah.
okay.
So Thungar hijacks it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. He has to climb up this tower, and they take their time doing it because there's people on top of there who are waiting for him, and he's got to wait till they get to the side, and it builds up tension. Sometimes too much action is dulling to the senses, but
sure.
Let's see. He goes up there and he beats the crap out of those guys, steals the airship, and figures out how to fly it, which is kind of preposterous in itself.
Maybe, I think they kind of explained that the piloting of it, the steering was rudimentary enough that Thungar could figure it out. And also it's like, maybe he's kind of clever.
Yeah, okay. Maybe so. So he goes to sleep. And then he said, well, I'll set the course for about 6 hours, go to sleep, and then I'll be over where I need to be. And he wakes up and he's talking about a
pterodactyls.
Yay!
Yeah.
And he shoots at him with this bow, and he should have killed him, but it doesn't. But we have this wonderful scene
where he's dangling by a rope. He's during this fight with the pterodactyls. He falls out of the airship, but is hung by like a rope around his foot. Or something.
Yeah, and the pterodactyl is on top of the airship, the ship is upside down, and it's hanging there. And it is so cool. It's descending down, and then T-Rex is right there ready to eat him. So
yeah, and Thungar's knocked out. So that's a great cliffhanger to leave on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's that looks so cool.
Yeah.
But it might have a natural buoyancy because it's upside down. Mm-hmm. So it has propellers on it, like a helicopter, 2 of them. They're way too small, but it's upside down and it's floating, so it must be buoyant somehow. Maybe magic?
Who knows? We have no explanation of this. So before we move on, I do want to talk a little bit something about airships. Mm-hmm. It's just a little tangent, but I remember this great episode of Batman the Animated Series. Mm-hmm. And it was about Ra's al Ghul. Okay, the villain who is kind of immortal. He goes into the Lazarus pits and he's lived centuries.
Yeah.
And Batman has captured, I think, or is on the lam or capturing, not on the lam, but after one of Ra's al Ghul's many sons that he's followed over time. Mm-hmm. And we were told this adventure in the past, like it's like near the end of the days of the Wild West. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Ra's al Ghul and son have this Master of the World style airship, and they're attacking and trying to do something someplace. And it's Ra's al Ghul battling an aged Jonah Hex.
Oh.
And it's awesome.
That sounds like it'd be cool.
Oh, it is super cool. Batman's hardly even in the episode. but it's all told in flashback, and it's a wonderful episode. So, but a couple of backup stories we have in this issue. Oh, excuse me, the only one.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Is called The Lighthouse from Nowhere, which is a reprint from Strange Tales number 87 from August of 1961. Says it was written by Stan Lee, but I debate that because of the plot, and I'll get into that later. With art by Steve Ditko.
Okay. All right. In Scotland, on the coast, there's this fishing village, and there's a bunch of rocks in front of it. There, and in bad nights, bad weather, ships will hit a rock and crash. So they need a lighthouse.
Yeah, but they don't have one.
Because they're too cheap to make one.
Right. Or too poor. Or they're like, we work so hard just to get all our fish. So, but a schoolmaster in town is like, we really need a lighthouse. This is danger. So then a beacon kind of appears. And everyone's like, yay, we got a lighthouse. Yeah, like, cool. We didn't have to do anything for it. And, you know, things are more prosperous. They're able to catch more fish because of the light source.
Yeah, and the school teacher says no, Tanstaple. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch.
What is... Oh, you're using it as a mnemonic device?
Yeah.
I was like, Tanstaple.
Yeah, it's from Hyman.
Oh, okay.
And he said it's just wrong that we just got this thing for free, and it's something wrong about this.
Right.
So he blows it up. So with dynamite.
Yeah, and everybody's pissed at him.
So he's got to build a new one. Says, all right, I will. So he builds one. That's great. Then we find out that beacon was
a vanguard of an invading, alien army, and because the beacon went out, they decided not to attack the Earth. They're like, oh, they must have be onto us. Now, and that's the whole story.
Yep, that's it.
But the school teacher mentions, like, look, we didn't earn that. We didn't. We have no right to that thing. And it's, okay. The reason I doubt that Stan Lee wrote this, because that is so in line with Steve Ditko's philosophy. The unearned is valueless, and is unacceptable. It's that's a key element to his Ayn Rand based philosophy.
Okay. That's pretty cool. It's a nice little story. But I do think unearned is not as... Something you earn is worth more to you than something you're just given.
Right. And no, and I agree with that sentiment. But I was like... my point was, I'm like... Stan Lee may have had a hand in the basic plot, but that story just screams Ditko's philosophy, and I feel like he probably had a larger hand in the crafting of it than is credited.
Yep, I think you're right.
Okay, so let's talk about...
You ought to send Ditko a letter or something, asking him.
Yeah, he's real touchy about Stan Lee.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's written at length of the topic, but and also... he'll talk about his old work, but you have to really walk on eggshells about it.
Oh, okay.
So
I can see that.
But yeah. Folks, Steve Ditko, he's 87 years old, but if you write to him and you're polite, he will write you back. So... let's see. So the next comic we're going to talk about is The Defenders number 6, which is the June of 1973 issue. And the story is called The Dream of Death, which was written by Steve Englehart, penciled by Sal Buscema, and inked by Frank McLaughlin.
Okay. We have our favorite emo surfer, the Silver Surfer. And he's in a better mood now. So he comes back to Earth because he thinks he can deal with humans better.
Not come back to Earth. Remember, he's trapped on Earth.
Yeah, but come back to civilization.
Yeah.
And he sees a huge cube over Dr. Strange's house. And he's going to Dr. Strange to apologize because he kind of was mad at him because he wasn't able to break the barrier and use some
I
words.
mean, but saying like, a barrier put in place by Galactus, it's more than Alakazam. It takes more than that to fix that.
Yeah, but Silver Surf's in love. He's kind of emo, and I don't know. I'm surprised Doctor Strange couldn't do anything. So.
Well, right, and it serves the plot of many Silver Surfer stories grappling with understanding humanity for him to be trapped on Earth. I mean, later he was the barrier was removed, but for a long time he was stuck here, and it dramatic purposes. That's
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So he comes and he says, "What's this cube?" And it's a cube. It looks tie-dyed. It's kind of neato.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to give off the effect of like pulsating or amorphous magical energy going on. So he tries to blast through it, no dice. So he just decides to fly away for a while and ram it at top speed, which is incredibly fast. The Surfer is
and Surfer is tough. So if he knocks himself out, he'll be okay.
Yeah. So anyway, at that speed, he's able to travel through it, and inside. Is Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum in Greenwich Village. And Namor, Doctor Strange, and the Valkyrie are trapped inside, and they're being attacked by these henchpersons.
Cyrus Black, the Devil Incarnate.
Which, Cyrus Black is another wizard like Doctor Strange, who is... I can't believe he calls himself the Devil Incarnate. Because he's totally not. I mean, he's a bad guy, but... just because you say you're like super evil doesn't mean you're like a #1 supervillain. But he is formidable.
Yeah. And in real life, people don't call themselves evil.
Well, right. Especially, good grief, the Devil Incarnate.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So they're fighting these minions. The good guys. And they're beating the crap out of them.
Yeah.
And really not...
They're sort of protected. The villains are sort of protected or amplified by Cyrus Black's power, but still, Strange, Valkyrie, the Surfer, and the Submariner, they make short work of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a thing about the Black Knight is in a...
He's been turned to stone, and Doctor Strange is working on it, trying to free him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a subplot.
Yeah, and they're afraid he'll break, but Doctor Strange fixes it. So, and then they beat the crap out of everybody, the bad guys, and they leave. So we have a group of people that say, "Hey, maybe we ought to get together." It seems Namor really doesn't want to, but
right.
Namor and the Silver Surfer—that's a good combination.
Yeah, and it's weird the Hulk isn't in this. He probably got mad and left for a while, and he would.
Actually, he may not be in it yet, because they're just beginning the Defenders now.
I've read the debut story with the Defenders. Mm-hmm. It's in like Marvel Premiere or something like that, #1. Or Marvel Feature, I can't remember. But anyway, there's several stories in that where, yes, the Hulk, and then he kind of comes and goes. A lot of that's how it works with the Defenders. Because they were kind of a non-team that would kind of work together at times. And then later when Nighthawk came from... whatever planet or whatever dimension or whatever that the Squadron Supreme were from and joined them, he ended up leading and tried to make it like more official.
Okay.
So,
yeah, you got a lot of interesting personality types. Namor for one.
Yeah.
And Valkyrie's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like her a lot. But yeah, Namor and the Surfer, the Hulk, and Doctor Strange. You have some interesting possibilities character-wise there.
Yeah, I wouldn't let the Hulk in my house.
But Doctor Strange can kind of like cool his jets.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Can he? Okay.
Sometimes.
All right, Cyrus Black goes back to his house, and he's all bummed out because he lost. And he thought he was really good, but Stephen Strange is way above him.
Yeah.
So he's petting his pet rat, Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great name.
Yeah.
So he puts on this new incense. From, where is it from? It's from Jamaica. And It's Jamaican incense. And so what I'm thinking, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I didn't think that he got stoned, no.
Well, he goes to sleep, and the incense makes him imagine a huge... Nebuchadnezzar becomes a huge rat, the size of a bear. And he wakes up and says, oh, this is a horrible nightmare. And then Nebuchadnezzar is that size for a few seconds.
Right.
So he looks it up and says, oh, I can cause all these really evil creatures come up and beat the crap out of the defenders.
Yeah. And he can get his revenge on Stephen Strange, who slighted him or something. You know, whatever.
I think when Stephen Strange beat him the last time... Well, no, I think this time he says, well, you're just a minor magician or something like that.
Right.
And then he's still mad about that. And
right. So anyway, monsters and stuff do attack the Defenders at Stephen Strange's home.
That's a pretty good fight.
Yeah. No, this was a really fun comic.
Yeah. They keep on fighting, and they can't win until they make... Well, Cyrus... They barely beat these monsters. Then Cyrus Black comes in. He's looks like a god, and he's attacking. And he's going to win, and they say, well, you know, you're really just dreaming this, you know? And Cyrus Black sort of, oh, am I? And destroys the illusions. But the illusions were real. But he has to believe in the dreams and all. It's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
Poor Cyrus Black is all bummed out because he lost. So
yeah.
We have a full page of the Dynamic Defenders.
Yeah, it's just a splash, kind of like a spot illustration as a one-page filler, but it's really great because you have kind of an action pose with the Surfer, Valkyrie, Submariner, the Hulk, and Doctor Strange. And it's pretty neato-kino.
Yeah. Hulk is mad. Is he always mad?
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next issue we're going to talk about, and the last we're going to talk about today, okay, that issue that we just read was from very early in the Defenders, and this is, the next one, we flash forward to the, 1985, and it's like 5 issues before the series is canceled. And the only member of the Defenders who is still around is the Valkyrie from the original team. And boy, this is a huge jump because we're talking, over 100 issues later, and many, many things have happened in that time to them.
Oh, God.
But let's talk about this. This is the Defenders number 147 from September of 1985. And the story is called And Games. The previous issue I looked up was just, the title was called Fun. And that comes into play in the story, though. Written by Peter B. Gillis, penciled by Don Perlin, and inked by Art Nichols.
This is when I realized that this is one instance where not having the previous comic is very bad.
Yeah.
It's a very, very complicated story, and I was lost all the way through it. Had to go and look at Marvel Wikia to get the plot, and it's still complicated.
Right. Yes. Okay. We will soldier on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Candy Southern,
who is the Angel's girlfriend, Warren Worthington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Candy Southern, she's hanging out with the Defenders. Warren Worthington and Iceman have joined the Defenders, along with the Beast, I guess, who has left the Avengers. So it's 3 of the original X-Men. Although we don't really see the Angel around in this issue, which is odd. The Angel and Iceman had been in the Champions, another Marvel super team that didn't last, didn't work out. And the Champions had Dark Star from the Soviet Super Soldiers. They had the Black Widow, Hercules, and Ghost Rider also. But yeah, it didn't gel, it didn't work, it wasn't a hit book, and it got canceled.
Oh, well.
So, I think it was like the Defenders was becoming another Avengers type of group, and the Champions was another way to do another one. But I think it's a case of going to the well one too many times. the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and the Avengers can exist together in a same world because they're all really different teams.
Right.
And the Defenders were kind of a non-team, and that kind of, okay, that also worked, and because they kind of worked together some of the time, and that has an interesting concept. But when that became just like the Defender or the Avengers Part 2, and then trying to do another group like that, the Champions, it's just too much, and it's too much of the same thing.
Huh. Okay.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just and Marvel, and they all do that. They just beating a dead horse.
Sure. And at this time, the Defenders include, the 3 of the original X-Men, as I mentioned, but also the Gargoyle, who is basically Marvel's version of Etrigan. I mean, kind of. And another Valkyrie was just joined, along with Valkyrie, and Cloud.
Yeah, who I never heard of before.
Cloud is, if I remember correctly, a star or cosmic entity that gained human consciousness and came to Earth.
And a cloud bikini.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
A cloud goes around her covering all the naughty bits.
Yeah, well, and Cloud was, I can't remember if it was, Cloud was a guy at first and had a romance with Moondragon, the bald chick from the Avengers, and then kind of changed genders like out of nowhere because magic and stuff, and then that fizzled that romance. So there's that. That's one of the things that Cloud has wrestled with.
Interesting. Okay. All right, they meet Hotspur, who is a 18th century ruffian. He goes around beating people up and having a good time doing it, and he's a lord, so the law cannot do anything about it.
Right.
And
now Hotspur is kind of reminiscent of the Hellfire Club of history, not to be confused with the Hellfire Club, the X-Men's enemies, who are also based on that group.
And Hotspur is not to be confused with the Hotspur of King Henry IV Part 2, the Shakespeare play, which is based on the real Hotspur who rebelled against Henry IV and died in battle. But which kind of surprised me. I'm not sure where they got the idea, but
he's a foppish brigand rogue. He's like if Harry Flashman was evil,
right,
and sadistic.
Yeah, he's like the Cat's Paw Star Trek episode.
Yeah,
and but even though that Cat's Paw was really just a mischievous kid.
Oh, Trelane.
Yeah.
Is that the episode? No, that's Cat's Paw. Isn't that episode?
Oh, it's not. Oh,
that is. Keep talking and I'll look it up.
Oh, let's not worry about it. Okay. So, the world's most dangerous fop, Hotspur, has these party goers going crazy and using them as his minions with magic power. And he keeps getting captured.
The Squire of Gothos.
Squire of Gothos, yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
I can never remember this. It's been so long since I've seen it.
We talked about that episode like a few weeks ago.
I know, and I forget.
That's okay. Carry on,
cocaine is a hell of a drug. And this happens something happens a bit, a couple of times more, is that Hotspur will be captured by one of the Defenders and gets his neck broken or his arm broken, and he wants that to happen because it doesn't really hurt him, and he wants to make the Defenders be more vicious and deadly, which I really didn't understand.
Well, right. I mean, we didn't read the first part.
Yeah. Yes, and so the same thing. Let's see. Who is Andromeda was the first one, and then the new Valkyrie comes up there.
Yeah.
And does the same thing.
No, I should be meaning it's the other Valkyrie. We still have the original Valkyrie around. But yeah.
Yeah, her name was Brunhilde of all things.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
I thought that was a joke because Brunhilde is usually something you call somebody as a joke, but an insult.
Yes.
So, more fighting. These partygoers and Hotspur are turned into monster-looking things, like trolls. And then this is what makes it confusing. Then they go back and it's all an illusion.
Right.
But Hotspur is still there laughing at him. He's the most irritating villain I've ever met.
Ever?
I think so. As in,
okay.
Maybe. I'm trying to think. Well, he's got hate tattooed on his chest.
Yeah, which weird.
Yeah. Then he has these double German soldiers come up.
Yeah. And then out of nowhere, Nick Fury of the past, like Sergeant Fury,
yeah,
without the eye patch, mind you, at least at first, until someone mentions it, shows up and helps them.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Defenders, they were weakened by this machine, and so they at least believed they didn't have their powers. And so Sergeant Fury gives them all these Tommy guns, and they fight him.
Yeah. Oh, Candy Southern's talking to somebody.
And it's a subplot, and it doesn't matter.
Makes any sense. So, which is another confusing thing about this. Yeah.
But the main thing with the Defenders fighting Hotspur.
Yeah. Yeah, he does get his eye patch back. I did not notice that.
As soon as the Beast mentions it.
Yeah.
Because I think they've conjured up Nick Fury out of some memory.
Because they're getting their butts kicked, and they can't stop them.
Right.
So everyone's got a Tommy gun, and Nick Fury says "Wahoo!" So which is what the
Howling Commandos. That was the howl part.
Mm-hmm. And then everyone says, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't shoot these guys. I don't know, that might be a bad idea."
Because they're really people being mind controlled, and so they're innocent.
Right.
And so they don't, and that undoes the Hotspur.
Yeah.
Because they don't end up doing what he wanted.
Right. But he says, "Well, you're heroes, but you're going to kill, so ha ha ha, and I win." And
so they don't, and so he loses.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's weird. And also, the gargoyle kind of manipulates Cloud into doing something magic or something to upset her, and that is what is the final defeat of Hotspur.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Cloud leaves the Defenders because she's kind of been used by them.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It was just way too confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But on that note, I need to bring something up. There are times in the way we've done the show that have led to such confusing as this last segment, and that's going to be a thing of the past because we are going to take a 2-month hiatus, and when we return, we will be working with the phone book volumes, the Marvel Essentials and the Showcase Presents. So we'll have no more of these large gaps and like what's going on.
Yeah. So if we have a problem with that, like this one, it'll be because I'm kind of stupid. So,
yeah.
So not that we don't have the original.
Yeah.
Although now I do want to read the fun. So
yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The previous.
I want to miss the. We won't have any Twinkie alerts with the phone.
Yeah, or house ads and things like that. But I think it'll kind of streamline things and less tangents that kind of get us down rabbit holes.
We won't have to describe the new characters as more. Just. I mean, how many describing Atlas and we describe Thungar and Manhunter.
Like I said, it will trim away a lot of the fat of the show, and I think we'll get down to it a lot better. So we'll be coming back, improved. We're not going away. We're just taking a break, and this will give any new listeners time to catch up on the show.
You poor souls.
Yeah. But yes, we will return in September, and we will be working from Showcase Presents Superman Volume 1, Showcase Presents Justice League of America Volume 1, and Marvel Essential Fantastic Four Volume 1, and is the Essential Captain America Volume 1.
Yowza.
So we'll have a lot to look forward to in 60 days.
Okay. Until then, see you in the funny pages.